We'll be recording this. I'm just going to repeat myself real quick. I checked the proportion of my page versus my proportion of what I was going to draw. I realized that this is short and long, and this is a little more tall, so I tried to draw a representation of that in my sketch. I then divided this area in half, this area in half, and my drawing in half and half. I'm now looking for lines. I've found a horizon line, which is somewhat below midway, and it kind of goes at a little angle up. So I'm going to put it like there. And I'm going to go at a slight angle up, kind of like that. I think I might have been a little more than I needed to be, but I can tone that down a little like that. All right, next thing, I've got this black. I look for the dark areas. All right, I've got a dark area here. I've got a dark area a little more than halfway in this quadrant. Kind of stops up here. Okay, I've got, this is a little darker here. It starts about here. Kind of comes down, goes through the halfway point. Kind of goes like that. All right. So I've just put these masses in, just rough masses in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and start to maybe put in a little more detail. I'm going to do it lightly at first. So I've got this tree. It's a little bit off center. Comes down to about halfway through here. Kind of goes up. And then about here it goes over, gets kind of close, and then kind of curls up. Okay, it's got a branch that kind of starts at the center and kind of goes up to there. It's got another branch that's kind of about the same. Starts about the same. It's flat for a little bit, and then it curls up a bit. I've got a tree here. That is actually in perspective. If I look, that's kind of, so I've got one like here. And I've got one like here. It's got a branch. Kind of hard to see what's going on with the rest of it. That's okay. I'll just make something up. Okay. This one starts about the same spot as this one, so I did something wrong here. So let's do that. Trunk kind of goes there and then kind of does something there. And the blob of the tree really only goes to about here. It's okay. This one's basically just got two major trunks. One kind of here and one kind of here. All right. Now that I've got that kind of just started to lay it out, and I've also got where I've got the leaves that have fallen, making this white space, and it's a little bit under each tree. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of hint at that. And that goes kind of all the way over to here. And it goes to here. And then goes up about like that. These guys are a little more subtle, and I might not even get real wrapped up with these guys, but there's a little there. Oh, and I missed a tree. There's another tree. Right. Nope, way down here. I missed that. Starts about here, goes up to here. Close enough. All right, I'm going to start putting in some of the blacks that I know of. This one right here. I'm going to do this. And I'm just going to, that goes to about midway. This one goes to, I'm just hatching. By hatching, it just means just drawing a series of little strokes. And that's going, see, I've blown it someplace, and I'm going to have to fix that, but I will, I hope. I've got a little bit of black back here. And I've got a little bit of black. I think that's a house in the background, but it's kind of, I'll come back to that because that one's scaring me. All right, this one off of this tree. Let's make that the back edge. Kind of fades a little bit until we got another lump of it like here. And then I got a pretty black thing going on right here, which defines that tree. All right, you can start to see that stripe in there. Now I'm going to, rather than trying to draw each individual leaf, I'm going to kind of look for clumps and just kind of get a rough outline of it. For that, I don't know if you, I have a stroke that I like to use all the time, and it's called the reverse umbrella stroke, and it's my go-to for vegetation. Reverse umbrella. All right, so I know on the screen that's really small, but an umbrella stroke with the pen is you make the top of an umbrella and you put a couple little boomerangs in it. All right, so that there's a big curve and then a couple little curves underneath it. And the reason we call it the umbrella stroke is because it kind of looks like an umbrella. It's an irregular umbrella, but it's an umbrella nonetheless. You can do trees with that. For example, I mean, I can do by making like clumps of these. Now, I don't like the umbrella stroke. It's pretty good for weeping willows, but you basically make like scoops of ice cream on top of one another. And then and you can throw in some little leaves on the side, and you can put some branches in there if you want. Try and just hint at them. And now that's kind of a decent graphic tree. It's okay. But again, that's an umbrella stroke. I like the reverse umbrella. And how does the reverse umbrella work? The reverse umbrella is the same thing, but instead of going like this, I go like this. I just flipped it upside down. I do a big one at the bottom, and then I do some like that. And to me, the difference is you can start to put some little holes in the tree because the leaves aren't usually. So to me, that is a nicer graphic tree than the scoops of ice cream. All right, and that's all just this stroke, just up. You're kind of making little W's and U's, and you can use that to do trees. You can use that to do vegetation in the background. I usually throw a couple leaves off to the side. You know, throw a few leaves in the canopy if you want. I'll put a couple branches in there just to So that's one of my go-to graphic trees. When I'm looking at this, I would immediately start doing clumps of these with a reverse umbrella. For example, this dark one, which we're going to want to do, I see a clump there. And, you know, I'm going to be I'll put a couple little openings because this tree is pretty dense, so. And where was the trunk? The trunk was here. You really don't see a whole lot of branches. Okay, so I'm going to call that. We'll stop right there on that side tree. This tree is a little different because it's got kind of clumps all over. So let's do, plus it's white, so the clumps are a little less severe. But let's do a clump here. I see kind of a clump going from here. And as to whether or not I'm 1,000% accurate, well, it's a sketch. So let's do, I'm trying to look at the drawing as much as I can. Okay, this one. Now I'm just trying to find holes in there. And I'll probably stop right about there. And I'm going to go ahead. When I draw my trunks, I tend to make them a little narrower than they actually are. Just I think it reads better when they look a little tall and narrow. So I'll put another clump here. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll put a clump there. All right, same thing with this one over here. This one's a little more defined. Let's just do a clump. And I'm just kind of roughly following the outline of it. Now I see it's got kind of a hole. sure how I even made that one. Close enough. Good, we'll give it a little trunk. The rest are white ones that kind of make, I'm just going to look at all of this as a clump, because and okay, so now I've got all my trees clumped in. What other elements can I introduce into it? Well, you know, there is another trunk here. Again, the first place I go is look for those blacks. And I've got a tree trunk that's pretty black. And if I want, okay, this one's got quite a bit of black in it. This one's actually pretty light. Okay, and I'm going to start trying what I'm going to do around where I put the leaves is just put some little W strokes in there. And I can even kind of stipple a little with W's right around the edges of it if I want it to look. Oh, I don't know what this is. I think is that a stone or is that a very large beaver? I think it's a stone. Darken up some of those trunks a little bit. These guys, I'm going to go ahead and put some openings in the clumps. And what I'm going to try and do now is hint at some of the branches, and I'm not going to get carried away with it because you could spend a long time just doing branches, and it's a big part of that, which is why when I mentioned doing these in the winter is a problem, because now if you want to draw a tree in the winter, it's pretty much, if it's a hardwood, you're pretty much just drawing branches, and they've got a life of their own. Throw a few in and call it good. That one had one going like that. Sometimes they start out horizontally and then work their way up vertically. Okay. At the base of each tree, I like to just put a couple W's and some dewberries in there just to kind of anchor the tree so it's not floating in space. And, if I wanted to, I could even go ahead and I'm going to darken up this line right here just to try and give it a little more punch. And I want to wrap this up before I overwork it too much. So I would go ahead and, if I wanted to, one technique you can do, if you watch this, what I'm doing is putting a few clumps of leaves outside of the frame. And that's going to help suck your eye into it a little bit. And let's see where else I could do it. I could do a little here. I'm just kind of tracing over. Notice I'm using the dots to try and keep my line straight. I would go ahead and put some grass down on, actually this one, I hate to say it, this tree over here, it's pretty dark in the drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and just go insane with leaves at the edge of it. Look for the edges in the corner. I mean, I don't want to have to fill this whole thing up with leaves, but the bottom of it, you know what, I'm going to stop there, because what I might actually do is, rather than draw all those leaves, I'm going to do a little, I'm going to hatch that a little. I see that's dark. That's pretty dark right there. I got a dark spot. Kind of going like that. And this dark one's kind of and it's got actually a pretty dark little edge here. And I can always draw a few squigglies in there just to make it look a little less liney. All right, so I'd stop pretty soon. What's got going on back here? I'm gonna put another little line there to kind of shade under those trees, and then I would put grass in, but that's just me because I like to, as you know, I just love doing the grass because I can fill up a lot of space. There's a lot of white space in the bottom of this drawing. And I'm going to cheat and turn this, make it easier to draw. And I'm trying to put a little bit of perspective on the lines by making them a little further apart as you get closer to the front of the drawing. So I'd call it good. Well, I'd call it done. I don't know if I'd call it that good. So I'm going to walk around. How'd it go? Was it fun? Did you get anywhere? It counts for one of your sketches, so I'm going to stop recording. Hang on a minute.
I think I might have got a little lost.